Okay, my name is Roy Reynolds. You should have a copy of this handout I gave. And, okay, let's see, where am I here? Oh, yeah. Okay, you should have, I'm here to bring your attention to the 2025 budget item number 1451, which calls for spending over $34 million for the ExpressVote XL voting machines to be used in Suffolk County. Purchasing these machines is a mistake and not good for the voter, specifically me and my colleagues. In the handout, you'll see a list of some of the election integrity groups who oppose these machines. And there are many, and many more. These machines use barcodes to count the votes and do not use hand-marked paper ballots, which are the gold standard for fair and verifiable elections. They are twice as expensive as optical scanners and require the purchase of more machines. During the last election in Pennsylvania, 7-hour voting lines were reported at polling sites using these types of machines. When a person votes on one of these machines, the person behind them must wait until the previous person's completely done voting. If the machine malfunctions, voting stops until a technician shows up and the problem is fixed. There's no backup plan for voting, like there is with hand-marked paper ballots. I don't have the time to go into how these machines got approved in New York State, but I will say that the one state Board of Elections commissioner who opposed the machine was fired. There's a powerful lobby at work, and we should probably follow that money. A lawsuit filed to stop the machines was dismissed by a judge due to lack of standing. That sounds familiar, lack of standing. This appears to be the modus operandi to stop citizens from challenging the government on voting issues. It should be noted that legislation requiring hand-marked paper ballots is one of the election priorities of the new federal administration for federal elections, and if passed, will conflict with the purchasing of these machines. We are here to ask you to address the issue here in Suffolk County. There are better options. Please do not waste our money. So I ask, why do you think the Board of Elections is purchasing these machines? I know it's not for me, the voter. How many jobs will be lost? What's the impact? We need a transparent process. There are 4 vendors out there. Let's get formal proposals from all of them, not just ES&S. And if you're interested, there's a link to a video on that handout, and the presiding officer is actually featured in a cameo there. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Susan Hanson. On deck is Roland Schuster.
Good morning. I've spoken in front of this committee and other committees for quite some time now over the past year on numerous occasions about the election machines. And currently there is in the 2025 budget an item to purchase nearly $40 million worth of these new ES&S machines. People have come before this committee and expressed concerns about some of the downsides, some of issues. And what I'm concerned about is that that 2025 is right around the corner. And at some point, the Board of Elections is going to pull the trigger on this. And I don't believe that this committee, this panel here, or the other legislators have had sufficient time to explore other alternatives. Some of my colleagues are recommending that you consider other machines. They would be better than the one that's currently being proposed because the other machines still keep and maintain the hand paper ballot, the hand-filled paper ballot, which can be used for auditing purposes, whereas the newer machines do not. They eliminate that particular ballot, that type of ballot. And it is a better alternative. But for my own preferences, I would like this committee to consider hand counting. And I know it seems overwhelming considering how large this county is. And the last election had over 700,000 ballots. But this is a system that has been tested. It is implemented in other counties throughout the country. And when you get right down to it, the numbers can work. And it saves the county an enormous amount of money. The current line item for $40 million, that's going to last for 10 years. That's $4 million a year that we're going to spend on elections because of these machines. For $4 million, you can get a lot of people to count ballots, and the residents of Suffolk County will have a lot more confidence in hand counting than they will in voting machines. A big problem with these voting machines is that they contain proprietary software. You can never look at the code. Myself, I was a programmer for a number of years in my professional career. Code can do anything, and it doesn't take a lot. All you need is one line that says, if the system date is 11/05/24, then do this. And you can get results that are not consistent with what the ballots say. So please consider these alternatives, and we'll be back to speak on this some more in the future.
Good morning, that's Steve Gillen.
Oh, your penmanship probably.
Probably it's my penmanship. Yeah, I'm just here just quickly to comment on the machines. I won't go over everything that Sue and Roy went over, but there's one practical aspect to this that I think everybody has to think about. My organization, Project Civica, okay, we're a statewide 501c4 involved in the whole election process. So on the election week, I went around on Long Island. I live in Manaville, and I went to different locations to see the lines that were taking place. Now, state law requires of the Board of Election that no line should be longer than a half an hour, 30 minutes. If it is, it's the Board of Election's responsibility to provide more manpower or more equipment to those specific locations. I went around Nesconset Elementary School on Friday and Saturday and Sunday of early voting. And the lines were out the door. People were waiting an hour and a half, some places with 2 hours. Now, right away, that goes against what we're talking about as far as what state law is, as far as that half an hour, time frame. We look at these machines and just think of it logically. We go in, we get our ballot, we go into the booth, we could spend 10, 15 minutes sitting there reading it over, making sure we're making the right decisions, especially on propositions and things of that nature. Then we go over and we put it into the scanner, and then that registers our vote. Just picture everybody standing in front of a machine, spending that 10, 15 minutes, 5 minutes, even if you're quick, 5 minutes hitting the buttons like an ATM machine. The lines that creates, which has been identified by Roy and has happened all over the country that are using machines, will increase the time and the wait time for anybody that wants to vote. What does that do? People stand in line when they're in there for an hour, they're like, forget this, I'm leaving. I'm not gonna wait another hour. So when you're making this consideration for these machines, please keep that in mind. There's other options out there similar to the process we have now. There's the hand counting option, but that's another option also. But these machines have specifically been proven to slow the time and increase the time that people have to stand online to vote. So I would just ask you to consider that when you're thinking of a $34 million purchase that is really going to discourage voters from coming out and voting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And our last speaker is Susan Greenhall.
Good morning, Sheriff Lauder and members of the committee. I'm also here to speak about the voting machines. I'm the Senior Advisor for Election Security at Free Speech for People. We're a national nonpartisan, not-for-profit organization committed to making sure that every citizen has the right to vote and to protecting democracy. I've worked in this field for 20 years on a national level. I was a member of the cybersecurity task force that helped develop the new federal voting system standards, and I am against these machines as well. The gentleman who just spoke is 100% right about the lines. These machines made national news in this past election. If you saw people waiting in line for 6 or 7 hours in Pennsylvania, in Northampton County, or 2 to 3 hours in Philadelphia, that was because they're voting on the ExpressVote XLs. This is what we see over and over again with these machines. They have a record of failures as well. I wanted to also talk about some information that the Board of Elections has been promoting to sell these machines to the legislature. I've raised some of the things that I've said that before were incorrect. Since then, in the summer, I've gotten some documents from FOIL that show that there's further inaccuracies as to how the commissioners have been presenting these machines. First, they have told you that it's going to cost $3 per day per booth to store the privacy booths that we currently use to mark our ballots by hand. I got the contract with the storage company, and that is not true. It actually works out to about $1.55 per booth per month. And I can share that with you. I didn't print out the whole thing. It's 30 pages. I just printed out the relevant page. The commissioners have testified that they have to print 110% of ballots for 110% of the voters for every election. It causes great waste. And if they got the XLs, they wouldn't have to do that. That's not true. There's no state law that requires them to do that. There's no state rule or regulation. And they don't actually do it in practice because I got the printing contracts and they don't actually print 110% of ballots. So when they say that they have all this extra waste, I'm not sure why. They do what is recommended by the State Board of Elections, which is to use historical data, consider how many people are going to show up, add a little extra, and then print that many ballots. The commissioners also testified that these machines meet the new voting system standards that have been developed by the federal government and that are going to be adopted pretty soon in New York State. That is 100% not true. They absolutely do not. ES&S does not even have a product in the testing phase to the new standards. And in the FOIL documents that I got, from between the vendor and the commissioners, it showed that the vendor had helped the commissioners develop their talking points to come and speak to y'all. And when they did that, they had told them these meet the new federal standards. So that inaccuracy came straight from the vendor and then unfortunately through the commissioners. So I wanted to also share with you a letter that was written by the Republican and Democratic commissioner from Northampton County to their county commission, urging them to please get rid of these machines because they made the mistake. I don't want us to be in the same position. We're urging you not to get these machines. I'm sorry, to get new machines for hand-marked paper ballots as well. And I'm happy to share any of these resources with you or meet with you one-on-one to talk about these details further.
Thank you so much.